ready. Here we go. Another edition of What's Good Under the Hood. To our top right, Greg Hood, owner of Mazda of Columbia. To his right, from Fox Sports Radio, the one, the only Rob Sanders, AM 1400 WCOS. My name is Andy, and today we're going to talk about, later in the podcast, we're going to talk about how COVID has maybe been a positive for the automotive industry. But let's start with chips. That seems to be what everybody is thinking about because it's really affecting every part of the automobile industry, correct?
Well, Lay's, you can't just have one. That's what they say, Lay's potato chips. But I will say this to you. Mazda's in a little bit different spot, I found out the other day. Our problem is not chips. Our problem is supplier problems. We don't have seats. Is that
Really?
crazy or what? Yeah.
You have
So
seats?
we're missing seats. I said, well, why don't you get some milk crates throw in there and we'll do a good job seatbelt them in. But the point is that the Japanese or this particular company is not very reliant upon the chips that are coming out of China. And that's where a lot of the other companies had sourced them. And Mazda in particular has factories that are in Japan. Well, in the beginning of the situation, one of the plants, and I think it was Bosch, but one of the plants that made chips actually caught on fire, and that created a problem. But it's fixed and it's back up and running now. So as far as chips goes for them, they're in pretty good shape. I mean, it's a little light, but they're in pretty good shape. But when I was discussing what was our inventory issue now, they were saying the biggest problem is seats, but there's other things. And the reason why is because stuff is made in Malaysia and Vietnam and wherever, and they have COVID problems. So they're completely shutting down plants that make the stuff that goes into the car. So, is there a problem in the chip world in the other manufacturers? Yes. But the cool part for us is I think we're, based upon what I was told, and, we're told lots of things that don't always come to pass here with COVID, but I think we're going to be one of the first to come out of it. And then, as a side note to that, and Andy, you and I talked about it earlier today, is that Mazda sales are up 34% year over year, where the industry is only up 13%. So, if we were
What
in
ex
a
what does that say? I think I know because we talked about it earlier, but for those who don't, what does that mean? You're 34 and they're 14 or something. I think I got the
13
numbers
is the
right.
industry average. So, and there's some other manufacturers are up too, but they're always watching and competing against each other to see how much market share they can get. But when you look at the size of growth that we're having at 34%, I mean, that's a third more cars Mazda's selling. Now, granted, that's a smaller number than Toyota, but or Ford or GM or whatever. But when you're making that kind of inroads into a market, let's say they sold 250,000 cars. Well, now all of a sudden you're talking about 350,000 cars. So in a year, and that makes a big difference for the manufacturer, and it allows them to be more creative in development. There's a lot of things that happen due to that, but it's really good news for us. There's brands like Subaru that rode about a 8-year ride of every month they had more and more growth, and then about 6-7 months ago it started turning the other direction slowly, but it's turning the other direction. And that doesn't mean Subaru dealers are doing bad, because they're not. But they kind of have peaked out where we're just getting warmed up. And then the best news is what new product we have coming. So we have a large platform vehicle. They haven't officially given it a name yet, so we'll call it that. But it will be, first of all, it's unbelievably beautiful. I've seen it. And it will be competing along the lines of, the Tahoe, or, step above the Telluride. A lot richer car, great motor. Everything's going to all-wheel drive for one, which gives customers a better driving experience. And that doesn't mean you have to be in snow to have all-wheel drive. It means when you're in rain, you have better traction. And the way that Mazda set up their all-wheel drive units, it's a pretty darn good way of doing it. So anyway, back to the chip thing. Yeah, it's impacting the other parts of the industry. We have our other issues, but we're going to come out of that quicker. They're saying by the end of December, we should start filling back up and having more inventory. And if nobody else has cars, that'll obviously be an advantage for us to have people take a look at them.
Other than you mentioned seats, are you guys having issues with other parts of the car, or is it just the
No,
seat?
there's all kinds of parts. I mean, I'm going to use the term supplier. So there's lots of different things that are built by different places. That was just happened to be the ones that stuck out when the man I was talking to from Mazda was talking to
Okay.
me. But that's a pretty significant portion. It's not like you can go sit
Yeah.
them somewhere, wait for a chip. I mean, it was a legit question. I get it, but you just can't go sit them somewhere. they can't even pull them off the assembly line if you don't have a seat in them, so they can't build
Do
I
you
was
think
going to
that
ask.
would you think
I know that they're sending cars with no chips. Just wait for the chips. They're not sending cars without seats though, to sit in the lot with
that's
no
correct.
chairs in them. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
correct.
well, and that was gonna be my next question is that, do you think that people would have learned from this that, "All right, look, maybe we should, possibly go about it in a different way as far as getting these cars together?" Do you think that COVID may make the assembly portion of it different later on down the line?
Oh, I think it is making them all rethink their supply chain. I think that it kinda, and I don't wanna get political, but I'm gonna brush on the edge of it. There was a thought process of the previous president that was, let's bring stuff home so it's made here and we can control it, whether it be medicine or other parts, or the way it is now is back to it was all geared toward China, and China's having some problems. So it's not just from a what they're making standpoint. They're having a problem because they have an energy issue, which will also then slow down production of parts that are supplied. So these manufacturers are now having to run around and figure out, what they're going to do to fill those holes that they have. But I don't know if anybody's paid attention, but China truly is having an energy problem. And
I
when
was
they
seeing that on the news the
yeah,
other day. Is it that they are not creating
part
enough, or are they just
no,
using too
well,
much, or what?
no, interesting. And I saw a lot of their power comes from coal, and so they partially they've changed toward having a greener thought process in uh, energizing their company, but they still are reliant upon a lot of coal. And what I did hear, they got in a beef with Australia over the COVID issue and how it was blame game and all that. So they quit buying Australian coal. Well, what I was told, and I don't know if it's the actual fact, but what I saw was that Australian coal is about twice as efficient and effective as the coal they pull out of China. So they cut their nose off to spite their face, basically, and so they have to have way, way more coal to get the job done. So it's a shortage there. So therefore, it's an energy shortage, and they make the decision as a government just to shut it down. And so these plants that are making all kinds of stuff will be shut down.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
wow,
interesting. I
it's
I
different.
I just I wondered that I just wonder if things were gonna change from, the way that it was before because, when you have something like this and, we're what, 18 months into the pandemic now, something like that?
Right.
And, I know that things have changed at all kinds of industries, and I didn't know if maybe that was gonna be the way it was with cars because if you can do something where this can't happen to you again, I would think that's something that you would wanna do, right?
Yeah, I think that we're all working toward it, but the same thing. But as I alluded to in one of the podcasts previously, that it's changed how we do business as a dealer, but we're pretty
Mhm.
adaptive. So even though, when I bought the dealership, we had 147 new cars on the ground. And as of yesterday, I actually had 23, which was quite a bit. That was more than we've had in a while. So um, but are still doing well. And, our volume has decreased a little bit, not earth shattering, but it's decreased some. But people are buying cars differently. And so we might be more inclined to sell something that's inbound and they'll put a deposit, wait for it. It may change a little bit of how we do business, but, our whole country, I think, has been rather resilient in getting around some of the challenges that we've had. And I guess unless you're in the restaurant business, they're in certain states that's a little more difficult. But
Get my
well,
fries right, it's silly. I want my french fries right, let's go.
that ain't gonna happen.
That ain't
And
gonna
don't
happen.
ask for a McFlurry. So you're out. The shake machine's down. We,
Exactly.
we've already
Completely out.
discussed that. So
They're bringing the McRib is back beginning on November 1st. Did you hear about that?
I am so excited,
Big
Andy.
slabs
The
of
Mc
pork.
no of gristle
Is it
of
pork?
Yeah, pretty
of,
much.
of
Yeah. But
fake fat.
have you as far as employees, well, you mentioned our restaurants and how I mean, I've got friends that own restaurants and they can't get people to work at all. Are you guys having trouble finding workers during the pandemic?
No, well, I'm gonna speak for my dealership. Not
Right.
really. One of the things I do pride myself in is I think that I treat my people very well. So I don't have a high turnover rate. Not to say that we don't turn people over because we do if people don't perform or they don't want to be there or whatever circumstance they got. illness in the family, people leave, there's an attrition rate. But when you treat people well, especially in our industry, which is kind of tight knit, everybody who's in the car business knows somebody who works at some other car dealership, and they go, "Hey, how's your manager treat you?" "Oh, he's a great guy, man. They treat us great." And we get a good lunch on Saturday or whatever it is, and we give good lunches. I mean, what the heck?
Pizza.
But
What is the favorite lunch among your employees?
amongst
Pizza?
them, oh,
Amongst
no, we
them,
have
yeah.
steak and lobster every Saturday. What are you talking about? Actually, they're kind of strong on Chick-fil-A, and they also there's a soul food place that they go to, and I don't remember the name of it, and I've never been there, but I see them rolling in with the big container with all those little white things that they eat. They like it. It's really good stuff.
Yeah.
So they do wings or whatever, but I do feed them pretty well. We're having an event this weekend, and there is we do a couple of days of phone calls. We send out an invitation, a mailer, and then we back it up with calling customers, and their own customers. They're not cold calling people that have done business with us, and then we invite them to come in for this VIP event and doing it. So they're working the phones pretty hard to let everybody know what's going on and get them excited. And I feed them a lunch and dinner. So tonight we're going to have
Wow.
pizza. We did have Chick-fil-A, I guess, for lunch. I didn't eat it, but tomorrow I put up a bogey of how many appointments we set today, and that dictates what they're going to eat tomorrow. So, you got to have a little fun with it all, and they're all great people. So, but to answer your question, there's a technician shortage out there, and that has more to do with everybody's going to college instead of learning a trade, and it's hard for technicians, they make really good money. But there's a lot of training, there's tools that they have to purchase. So there's an investment in what they do as a tech. So that herd is thinning. So how we treat our employees in the service department is even more important than how we treat them in the sales department, because you start losing technicians and your customers start losing their sense of humor real quick. You can't get your car work done, you're not happy. So
I was just thinking, Greg's a nice guy. He's probably got him set up with, hey, you get this, you get Chick-fil-A, you get that, you get pizza. Mine is you don't have enough calls. We're having bread and water. Work hard, folks. That's why I'm not doing
well,
what
you
Greg
wouldn't
does.
have any employees then, Rob. So,
Exactly.
and then you could be answering the question. So, how's things in the carpet? I can't keep any employees. It's terrible. I can't hire anybody.
I'm having
Bread
to
and
work
water.
hard.
Bread and water for everybody.
To give perspective to when we're recording this podcast, doing it on October 7th. So how is the progress of the new building, Mazda of Columbia? Just real quick.
The metal portion of the service department, it's actually a metal building that will be covered on the outside, but it arrived, and they're starting to get to the basic assembly of that. And then they had to go in and shore up the existing building because they're taking off the front portion of the roof, so they didn't kill somebody. They had to actually go in and build something to unbuild something. So they're in that process right now, because the front part of the showroom, most of it's going away, and all the floor that was tile in there is now dirt. They tore all that up, and it's all changing. But the back of the house where the office was, and where my office used to be upstairs, which won't be in my office anymore, it'll actually be part storage where I used to sit. But it is staying, and then they're kind of rebuilding around it. But it's coming along. We're right on schedule. We should, and I checked the schedule yesterday, we should be in by early May if everything works the way it's supposed to.
I've got a big Halloween celebration planned for the dealership because we are in the month of Halloween.
Well, yeah, we'll invite you down to scare the hell out of everybody, and we'll be all set. Hand out some candy. You want to get scared? Here, have a Snickers bar.
Scarecrows don't scare people. Come on.
That's true. He's a skinny man.
Candy corn for everyone.
I like candy corn. You got to eat candy corn a certain way. You just can't throw it in your mouth. You got to eat each end of it, and then look and make
which
sure
end
you got
do you
it
go
all
for first? The small end or the big end?
Yeah, I think usually I go for the yellow end, the big end.
Yeah.
And you can do that two ways. You can turn it sideways, or you can do it flat, but make sure your tooth scrapes it off where you have the orange in the middle, have no yellow in it. That's expertise right there.
Well, you know what to do with candy corn when you get it. It goes directly in the trash. How do you guys eat
Oh,
that stuff?
Come
no,
on.
I love it. And
Terrible.
circus peanuts are a win too. I'm telling you, that's
What
not a
Big,
why
huge
Halloween
am I
dish.
orange.
the guy on the
Yeah,
show, but I don't eat the horse crap you guys eat, man.
orange
My goodness.
foam. No, this is stuff I ate when I was a kid. I'm not eating it now, but I like it. I
Yeah.
mean, I look over and I see the bags of it. I find it fascinating. My dad used to be funny, and when he'd see something, made him like sick, his fake throw up was Brack. Well, those candy corns are made by Bracks.
And that concludes this go round of the What's Good Under the Hood podcast. Greg Hood, owner of Mazda of Columbia, Rob Sanders of Fox Sports Radio. I'm Andy Woods. We'll see you next time.